Of course, just to try to make it authentic. To me, it was almost like a puzzle piece. There was different parts of it. First, it was getting in the gym. That was square one, where it was about sort of carrying myself like a wrestler and doing a lot of shoulder-heavy workouts, chest-heavy workouts, and posture, working on my posture. Then, of course, wrestling. I got to train with Anthony. He actually taught me how to wrestle, and he coached me and mentored me. Because it's one thing to learn how to wrestle, but it's another thing to wrestle like Anthony on the ground. So that was part two, and then part three was the crutches. You know, I wanted to make sure that it didn't look like I sprained my ankles 2 days ago. I just wanted to make sure that I was comfortable, in control, confident on them the way Anthony is. So it was like a three-part process that made the physicality of it all. And then the second half of it was, of course, his vulnerability, his emotions, how he moves as a person in the world, and how he cares for the people he's around. He's so bright and charming, but then on the mat, he's so monstrous. So I wanted to make sure I was able to find the balance. Yeah, I'd say his mental toughness, you know, the the militant mindset. Even if I'm tired, I'm gonna get it done. Like, for example, me, I'm in the gym now. You know, I apply myself now in the gym. Before I did this role, I was, yeah, sometimes, you know, here and there. But now, it's regular for me. It's a routine for me, and that leads into my mental health. So I learned a lot from Anthony with that, in terms of, you know, seeing him. He was my body double on set, so he was also on set for 14 hours a day with me, and he was learning something entirely new. So I was waiting for him to complain at least once, and he never did. And he never looked tired. He was always ready, and he was always confident. And so I always want to take that. You know, I put a lot of that on the screen, but off screen, I want to take that with me as well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the chemistry we had came natural from just our backgrounds being similar. Um, and me being very close to my mother in real life, her being very close to her kids in real life. So we just pulled from our natural relationships. In terms of the conversations, we knew how important it was to make sure that we were comfortable with each other. You know, we didn't want it to seem like we were stiff, or we weren't comfortable enough to hug, comfortable enough to embrace and lean on each other or cry next to each other. So it was a big trust thing. When I met Jen early on, we agreed that it required trust on each other's end. And once we agreed on that trust, we became vulnerable. You know, we had a lot of conversations offset, just talking to each other, you know, getting to know each other. Her telling me certain things that stresses her out in her life, and certain things that stress me out. And now I could ask her for advice, you know. Now I can lean on her for help. And that's the sort of connection that was important for us, to make sure that Judy and Anthony's connection shine through. Because if you meet Judy and Anthony, you realize that their bond is unbreakable. So it was important for us to share some sort of a bond that came off authentic. Every element, almost. Me and Anthony we're like almost twins in a way. We are very similar with how we grew up, and both of our mothers were very young, and both of our mothers believed in our dreams. You know, Anthony had a dream of being a wrestler. I had a dream of being an actor, and my mom never stopped me from that. She supported me, just like Judy in the film. I would come home, I would feel maybe not good enough, or maybe because I'm the only black actor in my class, maybe I wasn't ever gonna make it like my friends will, and my mom would be the one to remind me that I was special, and remind me that I had. That this was meant for me, and that I just had to keep working and pushing through. So every time I shared those scenes with Jen and she would talk to me, I felt like my mom was talking to me. You know, I felt like I was hearing things my mom has already said to me over and over and over in my own life. So I put a lot of that in the performance. It wasn't too hard for me to feel like a son, you know? Yeah, absolutely. I didn't get to know Coach Charles as well as I got to know Anthony. Anthony worked with his assistant coach, who was Coach Charles' assistant coach, Brian Stith. So I know Brian, yeah. So I know Brian Stith very well because he choreographed it all and he shaped it all with us. Because Coach Charles, he's still a coach, so he was very busy and he was still doing what he was doing. But I've met him twice, and it's all I needed to know when I met him. I met him at a bar, and with all Anthony's other coaches, we all were gonna go get drinks. And I got to the bar and I ordered a drink, and Coach Charles said, "You can't have that. You got to get in the gym tomorrow." And then he went and he grabbed my arm and checked to see how big I was getting for the role, you know. And so that already told me sort of that fatherly presence that he has, that sort of mentorship presence, that authoritative figure that Anthony was missing back home. So I made sure to lean on that when I worked with Don, who really did his thing bringing that to life. Yeah, of course. I think if there's anybody you can trust on a film set to direct who's not a director, it would be an editor, you know? Maybe the cinematographer, but an editor is such an important part of the process, you know? You can write a great script and you can direct a great movie, but can you put it together well in the editing room and make sure that you know, you write the story 3 times and that final time you write it is important. So Billy approached directing just like an editor. He knew exactly what he was looking for. He knew exactly where he wanted to edit, where he wanted angles to be. And because of that, it gave him a lot of time to speak to his actors and to really talk to his actors. And that's what he did. He allowed me to be free. He allowed me to mess around. He allowed me to improvise. And that's really cool for a first-time director, you know. So I've worked with directors who are don't really speak to the actors and are more focused on the camera work, or speak to the actors too much and don't focus on the camera work at all. But Billy toed that line perfectly, and he was always in control. I only saw him get mad once, and I was very impressed because it was a very stressful shoot, and he only got mad during the hike scene because it was cold and 100 of us going up a hike. And it wasn't even that he was mad, he was just stressed. And most times directors just let their anger out, you know, and the director's the most important part of the set, you know. Depending on their energy is how the rest of the energy follows. So Billy was able to really keep his composure through a lot of the hard times, and that really allowed us to keep our composure too. I would say the fitness journey, because that leads into my mental health and how I approach who I am and my self-care and how I speak to people and how I treat other people. So I want to stay in the gym and I want to stay focused on a healthy lifestyle. For Anthony, that's just ingrained in him. So I want to make sure that's ingrained in me too.